Guys are you're doing good on it. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources for February 10th, 2026. Commissioner Mayfield, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you, Commissioner. Director, would you like to lead us in a prayer, please?
Yeah, and before we go to prayer, we, a lot of us are sitting down here and it's 70 degrees and we're having a good time. We're enjoying life. There's still a lot of people in North Mississippi and other parts of the United States that's still hurting bad from those storms that came through. There's a lot of people still without power, and there's a lot of people now about to catch another round of more stuff coming up in the Northeast and especially that area. So let's keep them in our mind and keep them in our prayers. And, if there's a way to help them, let's try to help them. We know what it means. We've been there. We understand it. We know what it means whenever you're sitting in a situation where you've lost everything, or you lost all your power, or your house is torn up, or anything else. And So just think about it and think about them. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you. It's a privilege to be able to serve you. And Lord, we just ask that you just take each and every one of us that, on this commission and that work at Department of Marine Resources and give us the wisdom, Lord, to do it your way and not ours. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, I want to say that Commissioner Osborne is with us via Teams. Can you hear me, Commissioner? All right, thank you. All right, moving on down to the minutes from January 26. Has everybody had an opportunity to review? And if so, do we have any questions?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. The approval of the agenda. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? And do we have any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Director.
Okay. Well, first off, if you have any public comments, where's TJ? T in the back? Yeah, TJ's back there. So get with TJ and let's talk and get him that information so we can try to get it. And please try to get it to us as you can before the, whatever it is on the agenda. If it's at the end, that's one thing, okay? All right, let's see. Employment contracts. We have Ashley Beausard had started with the Environmental Natural Resources Specialist 2 at the Grand Bay Near. And we had a promotion. Trevor Moncrief, where's Trevor? There he is back there. Trevor's our new chief of science well, I guess the director of fisheries is the name of it, isn't it? I didn't give him your job, did I? I started to call him chief scientific officer there for a second. I said, uh-oh, Rick ain't gonna like this. But no, Trevor's a new director of fisheries and also welcome on board with that. And then we got Cameron Keys, who's promoted in law enforcement to staff sergeant. And we got Dylan Kesson, who was promoted to senior master sergeant. So I don't know if either one of them are here or not, but always glad to have that. And we appreciate everybody being able to, new ones coming on and being able to promote within is always a great thing for us. All right. Agency update, oyster season. We got 29,966 sacks harvested, averaging about 468 sacks a day. We had a little incident last week. And they was towing a boat out of past Christian Harbor, and needless to say, it sinks right on top of our reefs. Well, there was some oil sheens coming out of it and other things, so that caused some issues. But the reef already shut down due to the amount of water, but it did cause us some issues. We put an emergency contract in, and did an emergency contract, and was able to move that boat yesterday. And the boat is now out of the area, and so we're doing tests. And Eric, is there anything updated on the test? Okay, we're just waiting on the. We have to do a meat sample too, and because there was something on top of the reef in a certain area there, we have to do a meat sample, and we're having to do that. And I think Mississippi State's helping us with that. And good news, we're about to have our lab back open. As a matter of fact, Christina, how we stand on that?
Doing good so far.
All right, we're within a couple of days of having our labs back open, so we won't have to send any water test or anything else over to Alabama. We'll be able to do that. So that's going to help us a whole lot whenever we get things back. So thank you for that. But anyway, hopefully we'll get this oyster season open back up in the next day or so. We'll look at areas. There's certain areas that has to be closed because of where the boat was until we get all the tests back, and then there's some other areas that we could look at. So we'll look at whatever we have, and we will open up anything that we can open up, and then we will turn around and try to get the other open as quick as possible because we want to get you back in there fishing. We want you back fishing, and I tell you what, is it illegal to advertise a restaurant? I won't say the restaurant. I'll just tell you it's by the Hard Rock. All right? But they got dollar oysters on the half shell. And it's all this whole month. Well, we ain't going to have them there if we don't get them oystermen back out there catching them, are we? So let's get them back out there catching them so we'll have $1 oysters right there. I hadn't seen that in a long time, I tell you what, but so I don't get myself in trouble, okay? All right, but anyway, that's pretty good. In the oyster season, hopefully, we're nowhere near the 80,000 sacks that we want to get, but we're going to keep it open as long as we can and keep it done, keep going and keep getting them as much as we possibly can, and maybe we'll get close to it. We'll see where we're at. Any questions on that, Commissioners? Okay. Let's see. I'm already ahead of that one. All right, update on bottom oyster lease program. We went to the legislature a couple of weeks ago, last week or so, and anyway, basically we had put in a bill. Last year, the legislation said that we had to lease 80% and keep 20%. We went back and talked to the legislators, and I said, look, guys, this is not good. This is not what we need. Oystermen are finding there's plenty of oysters out there. There's a lot to be done. Let's see if we can't change that and make it a lot better than what it was. So we went back and we looked at it, and we basically we took the areas and like Henderson Point, past Marianne, past Christian, both and the tonging and the dredging reefs, and then we took part of St. Joe and we looked at all these areas that we were harvesting where we're harvesting now. And so we said, okay, we're going to be able to go back, and we asked the legislature to pass it to say that we need at least this. Well, in that, we were looking at it, and we had these areas out there that have always been there to be harvested, to be leased. Somebody could lease. There's been areas out there forever. And we were looking at St. Joe, and it wasn't a whole lot on the western end of it, and so we was like, okay, we'll concede and we'll just take the half of it. But after talking to some people and talking to some fishermen and talking to some staff and some others, it seemed like that this is just going to cause more of a problem than it's good. So why don't we just ask for all of St. Joe back, and that way we don't have to worry about this. All right, and so I went back, and then at Stanislaus, St. Stanislaus, we said, even though we're not fishing it very often and nobody's going up there is some resource up there, because I asked the other day to go check it, and there was. And so we're going to ask back. So what we're basically asking for, and it hasn't been brought up yet, I've asked it to be brought up on the floor, and I don't know, it's all up to the legislators to do it if they will, but I've asked to be brought up on the floor that we keep 100% of all the natural reefs except for Telegraph. Telegraph's over half of it's already leased anyway. And so keep all but Telegraph is what I'm asking for. And I've talked to some fishermen, I've talked to some others, and everybody said, hey, that's fantastic. If we can get that, you never want to give up anything. I understand that. I understand y'all's point. You never want to give up anything at all, but that's one area that we're not using, and we haven't used in a long time. And these other areas where we made a mistake, and the way I was able to put this back in is because I forgot to put the eastern side of the Gulf in there when I was talking to them. So now we got the eastern side of the Gulf in there also. So, we'll be able to take all of this. So the whole point's going to be that everything, if I get it passed through the House and Senate, everything that was natural reefs prior to 2021, I guess it would be 22, everything that was natural reefs except for Telegraph is what we're asking, that they not allow anybody but the state of Mississippi to keep control of. And so if that's where we at, Commissioners, y'all got any questions, or is there anything I can help you with it on? Okay, we'll see what happens. I know we'll see where we're at, but I can tell you now, I've talked to a lot of the oystermen, and talking to some of them in the situation too, but we're lucky right now because we have plenty. Process is working. How we're doing this is working. What we're doing to build a process is working. We need to continue this. We need to continue it, and we need to continue having the areas that are needed for our oystermen to be able to catch them. And, I think that this would be a great thing if we can get it back to that point. I don't know if it'll get there. I'm just telling you that's what I'm asking. Okay. Now, let's see. 2019-2020 Bonnie Carey, everything's pretty good on it. We're moving right along. We just got a few things left and just a handful of, a lot of them are ones that are being challenged in one way or the other, and we're having to go back and get courts to be able to rule on it. So most of the stuff is worked out. So I think that, we're still trying to, Tracy's not here, is she? Trevor, do you know anything about the actual, have we got the 2020, you know, the second phase of 2020? Have we started putting any of that out?
Close. Got
That-
the confirmation, so we're just waiting on the official word, and we'll be able to move forward.
That was to be able, what we went back and realized we had a little bit of extra money left. And so we decided what we would do is go back and then now, not if you had 3 boats, we didn't just give you the license for one of it. We're gonna try to do it for all 3. And so be able to give you funds for that. So we're trying to do that right now. So we'll see where we're at, but I think it's going pretty good with that. Any questions, Commissioner? All right, budget amendment for, 2020 grant, was approved, yesterday by NOAA. Oh, well, I got that on my notes, I just looked at it. All right, so it was approved by NOAA, so the amendment that we did to go back with is approved by NOAA, so we can go forward. Legislative update, you know, we got 2 or 3 different ones that are going on right now. Obviously, the oyster bill. We also have a seafood labeling bill that's out there that we're working on, and the seafood labeling bill is, we're trying to get it done. We did, had a meeting yesterday, and, that's probably somewhere else on my agenda here, but, oh, my mic's not working. Good, ain't nobody heard a thing I said.
Start over.
No wonder ain't nobody jumped up and shot, said, what are you talking about? Is it on? Okay, well, I had a red light a while ago. Okay, all right, but, the oyster, we're looking at that, and, so, for Marine Patrol bill, to be able to, pay Marine Patrol, reserve officers during special times, it's going through, it's passed the House and the Senate, and hopefully it'll go on. Our public records, to not have to give your information out if you buy a license and, or if whatever we do at DMR, we're trying to get it passed. It has got it out of the House, and it'll go to the Senate. Seafood labeling, we had a meeting yesterday, and in the meeting yesterday, we did do some, modifications. We will get those to, Representative Anderson today, and hopefully we can bring that up on the floor. He brought it out of committee, and, we'll bring it up on the floor for an amendment to it and help, do that. Basically, what it's saying is that, that if you have a restaurant, that you have to put something either on the menu by the item that says it's either domestic or foreign, what do we use? Imported, not foreign. I want to use foreign. Imported is domestic or imported, but you could also, if you have a large area in your thing, you could put a caption in the front of it that shows that could say that shrimp is imported, shrimp is domestic, or, you know, this is whatever it is, and we can put it on there. So we're trying to work with the restaurants to be able to do it. A lot of them are really working hard, and we're also trying to work with our grocery stores and our seafood markets to be able to do the same thing. But I think we're getting something headed in that direction. But we got a couple other bills. There's some titlings bills out there and some other things that are happening. There's a bill about probable cause, and it has passed the House and the Senate, and so we're working on it. And we're not totally against the bill. We'd love to have a few words changed in it. We'll see what we can do, and we'll work with them, and I think they'll work with us any way they can. Any questions on the update? All right, the Gulf Council met last, in January 26 through 29 in New Orleans. We had a good meeting, and everything worked out. We are putting together some stuff. One of the things that we're working on that we're trying to get done in the near future, and it's probably going to take a whole year to get it done if we can, but is to be able to, when we take the red snapper, and if a red snapper in the Gulf of America is 6 million pounds for recreational, as long as we don't exceed the ACL, then we can swap between states if one state needs some more than another one. So we can help that with states, and we'll be able to swap that red snapper account back and forth, which would really help us until we can get our MS Creel, but that's what we're working on. MS Creel is going forward. Trevor and them are having meetings, and everything's going forward on it, and so hopefully we'll get there soon and be able to get our MS Creel set up to where we'll get our allocations back to close to where it should be. Any questions on that? All right, we got a seafood task force meeting. I think it's 2nd of March is when we'll have the next one. Next commission meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 17th, and that's, any questions on that? Okay. And right now it's at Biloxi. We may come back here. It doesn't matter. Kind of like it set up pretty good, isn't it? And Wade,
Yes,
we need to thank Mayor Quave and the city too. I appreciate that. I'll tell them how much we appreciate it. Holidays coming up. President Day is the 16th. So we'll be taking a holiday there. And then we got derelict vessels. I've got 234 derelict vessels that have been reported, and I'm not sure that's counting the one that we just took off the reef. But 201 have been removed. We got 23 that are pending and 2 that we've received court orders on. So that's looking pretty good. And how about actions update prior meeting?
Yeah, from the prior meeting, we have none, sir.
Okay.
That, very easy today.
All right. Well, I think that's got everything. Crystal, if I get anything? All right. I think that's my report, sir.
Thank you, Director. Lots of positive information there. Appreciate the update. Commissioners report. Do any of the commissioners have anything they want to report on?
I'd like to give a thank you. Charmaine, thank you for helping us put everything together at the Biloxi Boat Show this weekend. I was able to host Kids Fishing 101 again, and in 2 days, we saw over 200 kids, thanks to CCA and Keesler Federal. We gave them a lot of free goodies. Everybody left with a rod and reel. The department really showed up. Marine Patrol, thank y'all. Invasive Species, Grand Bay Near. To see the smiles on their face while they're in there learning something good about our environment is pretty cool. Grand Bay Near is going to be at the Mobile Boat Show as well because they're so close to that, and we really appreciate y'all's help.
Great job, Commissioner Daniels. Appreciate you guys, what you do for those tournaments. That's great. The kids, they enjoy it.
It's
Any
fun.
other comments from the commissioners? Oh, sorry.
On that part that you were just talking about, Commissioner Daniels, I was talking to the our foundation, and one of the things that we want to do is get with y'all and maybe with the CCA and others, and see if we can make this a little bit bigger even and do some more fishing. I want to even look at Rick. I want to look at, can we put some speckled trout and stuff into the ponds up at Lyman and be able to fish the ponds and teach them how to fish and do some things like that. So we want to get with them.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to Office of Marine Patrol, Chief Wilkerson.
Good morning.
Morning.
Legal. January was a busy month. I was looking at the stops earlier. We doubled our stops on individuals, recreational and commercial. Nothing really jumps out at me that I need to discuss for here. So any type of question you feel free to ask, and I'll answer what I can.
Any questions for Chief? All right. Well, I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now we have Deputy Chief Jex who's going to do both what a no wake zone post. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So I have a very short presentation for a no-wake proposal in the city of Bay St. Louis Garden Isle community. I'm going to just go through the slides first, and then we'll come back to the map for any questions. Y'all have a copy of the map? It's not on. Okay. So if you look at the map, everything that's highlighted in green, the 2 bayous, that's Edwards Bayou on the left side of the map, Watts Bayou on the right side of the map. Those were actually proposed correctly with coordinates beginning and ending. And then everything that's highlighted in red are the man-made residential canals that attach to those bayous. And you can see the size difference between some of the residential canals and the main bayous that they're requesting. All of that's in,
Up on the slide there. See. So
Oh, there it is.
So people can see.
got it. So anyway, like I said, we're going to run through the slides first, and I'll come back to it. So as I said, the Edwards Bayou, the effects to boaters. Boaters will be required to operate at an idle speed for as much as 11 minutes and 30 seconds for the length considered in the resolution. Watts Bayou, the boaters will be required to operate at an idle speed for as much as 10 minutes and 12 seconds for the length considered. We do this every time we have a boat or a no-wake zone proposal. That way, during the summertime when it's hot, 100 degrees out, you guys know what the effects are to somebody going idle speed for that amount of time. Some of the special considerations requested in the resolution, as I said, for consideration was all residential canals and offshoots. Some of these canals, now that homes are built on both sides of the canals, some of these narrow canals, they've got boat houses, boat lifts, locations for vessels to be moored, and it narrows those waterways in some places to 20 feet. All the conditions reducing the ability for wake mitigation in those areas. Private property activities such as dock fishing, swimming, and launching provide for high risk of injury or property damage due to excessive wakes. We worked with Bay St. Louis city government. Miss Sandy talked to them on the phone, and I had some email threads with them where we advised them how they were going to propose this, because we've never had one that wasn't just a length of a bayou starting and ending coordinates. They wanted the whole community and all waterways existing inside that community to be no wake. Like I said, according to law, you have to give beginning and ending coordinates, but they asked for consideration for the residential canals that are very narrow anyway. You know, a considerate boat operator should operate no wake in there anyway. Before I go to staff recommendations, we want to go back to the map and y'all ask any questions.
So not only does it, would it include the green areas, but just all the tributaries?
Y'all
Other
might have to have the deputy chief, he's about like,
Thank you, Brady.
y'all might have to give him a break.
There it is.
Perfect.
Wait, there you go, thank you, Ray.
Yeah, so it looks like that,
All right.
that includes everything, right? The entire,
Correct.
every
What they-
waterway that's navigable in that
Their
community.
their initial intention was to give me 4 coordinates, like corner posts, and consider every waterway inside the 4 corners. We've never had one like that proposed, and it's not set up in law like that. The law actually says, both in title and in statute, that there has to be beginning and ending coordinates. And then the resolution goes on to say that they would like consideration for all residential canals and offshoots, is how they put it. And so,
And it looks like even the green areas of the main canal, that's a pretty narrow waterway as well.
that's correct. And so the Edwards Bayou Canal on the left side of the map, it starts pretty close to Bay Marina. Bay Marina is going to already be, because it's a public boat facility, it's already going to be a state statute-sponsored no-wake zone. So it would begin there beyond Bay Marina's wake zone and go all the way to the mouth. And I'm assuming that they're having issues with people not familiar with the area launching and going out to the mouth of the river. And likewise, coming back from boating off the river, they're running wakes through there and causing damage.
What's the actual width that you have to be with no weight? You got to be wider than what?
There's no minimum. We only list special considerations. And so special considerations in this is that it narrows to some points at as little as 20 feet across, and people launching kayaks, launching vessels, swimming off their docks could easily get injured or damaged equipment.
Who did y'all put this together or did the city?
The city put it together. We,
I'm talking about the actual map.
oh, I put the map together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a Google Earth pool where I highlighted for y'all's convenience what we were looking at.
It seems like a common sense issue here.
It seems that way. All the residential canals, as you can see, they're much narrower than, and there were man-made canals off of those main bayous. And now that there's so many residents across canals from one another, it narrows just by having a dock or a boathouse or whatever.
When you have families that are going to hang out on the docks, you don't want boats, ripping.
And we've received a lot of complaint calls. I think the director fielded some calls this summer about it. I have gotten some emails and some calls from city government over there, and they put this together in a resolution that I got last month. So,
And I would imagine that some of these curves here with the houses built on the canals is very hard to see making a turn.
correct.
And then there are numerous entrances and exits to, I guess, the main canal.
And I believe this is going to be the first of several communities that are water-based communities built around canals and waterways that we're probably going to be looking at more of this type of no-wake zone proposal.
So my neighborhood, as you know, we're already looking at doing,
Yes.
requesting the same type of thing. So I'm 100% in favor of it.
All right. So with that, let's see if I can not pass up the slide this time. Staff's recommendation, the Office of Marine Patrol requests that the commission recommend to the director approval of the establishment of the no-wake zone for the proposed Garden Isle area in Bay St. Louis. This is based on normal operation and vessel speed in relation to public and private access areas in which people fish, swim, and socialize.
All right.
Just a clarification, I mean, it's a very technical thing, but they did request a minimum zone or minimum wake zone.
So yes, ma'am, I sent them a go-by that I send to all local governments that are requesting a no-wake zone proposal. There's no language in any statute or title that designates anything a minimum wake zone. It's all no wake zones, and even in their email threads, they titled it no wake zone, but the resolution does read minimum wake zone. And so I believe it was just a mistake on their part, listing it as a minimum.
And the other
All-
thing
yes,
I
ma'am.
want to point out is that in their resolution, they requested the DMR to provide signage, and the DMR does not provide signage.
That's
So
correct.
We need to make sure the motion doesn't support just what the resolution says.
Correct. Also in the go-by, I provided links to both state statute and title, where neither one of them provide for the DMR or the state to provide signage. It's the local government proposing the no-wake zone. They're required to. Now, the state, both Department of Wildlife and DMR, as well as the county and the city proposing it, all have enforcement authority, but the governing body that proposes is responsible for the signage.
So are they required to put signage, like Mississippi, if you're trespassing, a landowner isn't required to have a no trespassing sign, right?
So we can agree to the resolution and pass it today, but if the signage isn't present, then there's no expectation, in my opinion. For instance, if law enforcement were out there and there was no signage telling the public boaters to slow, then it's not necessarily a violation. It would be up to Bay St. Louis to post signage.
And my other question, being that we're passing it as a minimum wake zone, is that gonna cause a problem for y'all in enforcement if you
No,
write a ticket?
We're not asking for a minimum, we're asking for a no-wake zone.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree with that, but if I understand what Miss Sandy just said, the resolution says minimum. Do we need to correct that before we approve it, or is it gonna cause a problem for y'all if y'all write a ticket?
Ms.
Yeah.
Amy.
In the motion.
In the motion that Bryce has recommended, it does say no wake zone.
Okay.
So what we're saying is you requested a minimum wake zone, but we're approving a no wake zone.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who authored the resolution with the city, but I've been in contact with Mike Riso, who's with the city government, and everything on our email threads was no wake zone proposal. So, and the go-by that I gave them highlighted that it was a no-wake zone and that we don't provide signage as a state.
Do we have any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve with the no signage provided and as a no wake zone?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Chief. All right, moving on down to let's see, Bureau of Wetlands Permitting. Cockrell. Or Jennifer?
Jennifer's not here. Will it do it?
Willa?
Willa's here. Yeah, Allison wasn't able to be here, so I'm filling in for her. So, let's see. We have a request for a permit by Miss Marty Cockrell. And this is on near Shearwater Drive in Ocean Springs. It's in a general use district. The agent is Mississippi State University. The project purpose and need is to create a living shoreline to prevent high rates of erosion. They're having erosion due to wind-driven waves and boat wakes. The project will stabilize the shoreline, and it will add to the existing essential fish habitat. They are going to do some vegetation planting, you'll see when I get to the diagrams. If you remember a few months ago, I did present a living shoreline waiver that was meant to cover most residential projects. This one has one aspect that is outside those limitations. So that's why this one is getting presented individually. So the project proposes to fill coastal wetlands for the installation of a living shoreline consisting of 9 breakwaters and vegetative plantings. 8 of the breakwaters will be 25 feet long. The 9th one will be 33 feet long. All of them are 7 feet wide at the base and 3.13 feet tall, which will be up to 1 foot above mean high water. They'll be placed a maximum of 95 feet from mean high water, and that's the part that puts it outside of that waiver. The waiver limitation was 35 feet from mean high tide. And they are going to be planting 7,159 square feet of native marsh vegetation, and that will extend 22 feet approximately from the mean high water line. So this is right next to Ocean Springs Harbor. You can see right there, this is the property. And the jetty that protects the harbor on this side is approximately 500 feet long. So they'll be going out 95 feet in relation to the existing jetty. And if you can see, this is turned the other way. So here's the jetty. These are the breakwaters they're proposing. And the off-white color is the planting area where they're going to plant marsh vegetation. The jetties do approximately line up with the shoreline next to it that is hardened shoreline. And so they have had some erosion back here, and the jetties will line up with the neighboring shoreline approximately. This is a cross section showing the jetty here, the base width and the height, and this shows how they're going to slope with the fill here to make it the right elevation for planting that native marsh vegetation. Okay, they did request a variance for the fill of coastal wetlands. This is what we gave the blanket waiver for. But like I said, since it doesn't fall within those guidelines, they need an individual variance to Rule 8.15.A. Permanent filling of coastal wetlands below the ordinary high water mark is not authorized. They've justified it under Rule 8.19A that the impacts to coastal wetlands would be no worse than if the requirements were followed. And that's because the overall intent of the project is to reduce shoreline erosion through natural processes and enhance shoreline vegetation, which will provide essential fish habitat. So the project went on public notice in the Sun Herald in December as required. Notification was posted on our website from December 11th to January 8th of 2026. No public comments were received. We received no public comments from Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Archives and History, or the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. The Secretary of State's office stated that based upon our review of the application, the conditions for our authorization have been met. And so staff recommends, after a thorough evaluation of the project and findings based on our decision factors, that the project would serve a higher public interest by protecting the shoreline and expanding the existing marsh habitat. Therefore, we request a motion that the commission recommend to the executive director to approve the requested variance and approve the permit as requested. If you have any questions, I can answer those, or a representative from their agent from Mississippi State is here.
All right, Willa, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
No, and I think that that piece of marsh right there is pretty open to the bay, being on the east side of that jetty right there too. And I was passing through Pensacola a couple weeks back, and I mean, Pensacola Bay was loaded with these types of living shorelines, and everything looked like it was really thriving behind them.
Yeah, we're excited to see more. Mississippi State is really pushing these. They have a program with grants to help design them and do some survey work for the property owners. So it's really exciting to be able to get more of these out there.
Director?
Yeah, I don't know if my mic's on. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, just, to talking about the living shorelines of Mississippi State, thank y'all so much for what you're doing with that. And the new blue economy that's done by USM and all, and they're bringing in the 4 or 5 different contractors, companies that are looking at it. That is what it's all about, living shorelines. And so if you get a chance, next Wednesday, they have it at the Gulf Blue meeting, and go to it and meet these new contractors. We're going to have a briefing from one of them coming up in another, I think this week. I think it's Thursday. This week we got a briefing with one of them. But this is a good thing. Thank you.
Now, Will, a quick question. So, like, being as how this is located, like, is there extra force being exerted on that marsh by the placement of that jetty?
Potentially. It really depends on how the waves are moving, which direction the waves are coming from, and the shoreline movement. It is having erosion. I mean, you can look at it and see that it's eroded back behind that hardened shoreline on the other side of it. So they are having erosion, and they really just want to use a natural process to fix that instead of hardening another section of shoreline.
This is, that is all private property, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
which
sir.
otherwise, without the Mississippi State stepping up, they may not be able to even have an opportunity to do that.
Correct.
It's a lot of residential areas, in my opinion, so I think it's
One
good.
thing I think that and they could answer this better than me probably, but one thing I think that they're able to do with their grants is to do a mean high tide survey, which can get very expensive, and they have equipment that they can take out there and do that mean high tide survey, which the Secretary of State wants before the permit is written, so that you can tell where the property changes from private to publicly owned water bottoms. And that can be very expensive for private homeowners, so that makes a big difference in getting more people to do these projects than just fall back on riprap or a bulkhead.
All right, any other questions?
That's great.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Ms. Willis.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the Bay St. Louis TGHP.
Yes.
Miss Alyssa? All right.
Yes, yes. I am Alyssa, and I will be discussing a request for a certificate of waiver by TGHP LLC. This project is located at 103 West Bayview Street near Henderson Point and Pass Christian. The current use district at the project location is C for commercial fishing, recreational marina, and dockside gaming. The agent for the applicant is Eco Solutions, Inc. And the purpose of the project is to provide tourism and recreational activities associated with the restaurant and bar being developed at the property. All right, so here's the location of the project over on Henderson Point. The project will take place on the Bayside as well as in Molini Bayou. And this site used to house the Pelican Cove Marina prior to Hurricane Katrina. So I'm going to generally discuss what activities are being proposed, and I'll go over it in more detail on another slide. So the applicant is requesting a pier extension into the bay, and the reason they need this is to provide depth to accommodate a water taxi for passengers to travel across to Bay St. Louis. So they'll get on the water taxi at the property, and it will ferry them over to Bay St. Louis. The applicant is also requesting additional piers and pilings for boat lifts along Molini Bayou for transient boat parking for customers, as well as storage of boats for day use rental and charter boats for fishing charters. In addition, remnants of an old pier and pilings will be removed along the southeastern shoreline of the property in Molini Bayou. There are a few after-the-fact impacts that are being requested for approval, including the excavation of a canal, which they needed to do for a water intake system. This is going to be for their fire suppression sprinkler system for the restaurant and bar. And the reason the system had to be designed with this canal is that there are no municipal water lines that run to the property, and the well on the property does not have the capacity to supply the water for the sprinkler system, and it would be extremely costly to have the water lines installed out there. And the pump has to be placed directly over water, with the pump housing structure has to be located at least 15 feet from the waterway, according to Harrison County Development Code. So that's about the canal that was dug. During our compliance check, the existing piers on the bay were measured longer than previously authorized, so that extra length will need to be permitted. And then mooring pilings were placed between the previously permitted finger piers, but those were not included on any previous permit. And combining the existing structures and the proposed structures, the project footprint will be approximately 3,532 square feet over unvegetated water bottoms. Just a little project history or recent history at this location. This applicant has received permits previously. In 2021, there was a permit to construct a bulkhead on Molini Bayou and the construction of the finger piers and a covered pier within the bayou. So that these parts. And then in 2023, the applicant received a permit to build the pier and the terminal pier on the bay side, as well as dredge out those slips on the bayou. All right, so I know this is super busy, but I'm going to walk through the impacts. So let's first talk about what's going to need some after-the-fact certification. So the existing pier, this existing access pier and terminal pier were built about 20 and 10 feet longer than permitted, respectively. And then the mooring pilings were placed between these finger piers. The finger piers were permitted, but the mooring piers were not the mooring pilings were not included on that. And then the fire suppression canal that I discussed was excavated right here where that little blue mark is. And the new proposed impacts are the extension of the pier. So this extension of the pier out here with a terminal pier and some mooring pilings, as well as removal of debris that will be, there's the old existing remnants of a pier down here. And then there are 7 proposed finger piers to be placed here for boat parking. And if you want more details and dimensions, I can go through that. So the proposed project is allowable within the C district. The public notice appeared in the Sun Herald on October 27th, 2024, and January 4th, 2026. It was available on our website October 21st through November 11th in 2024, and then January 4th through January 19th, 2026. And the reason this project was placed on notice a second time is because additional proposed activities were added to the application. So we did receive comments from 4 individuals. So I've summarized their concerns, and then I'll discuss what the responses from the applicant and agent were. So there were concerns about increased boat traffic and its effect on the ecology of the bayou and causing erosion. The applicant responded stating that the site was previously developed as Pelican Cove Dry Stack Marina before it was destroyed in Hurricane Katrina. That business was running at 100% capacity at the time with plenty of boat activity, and additionally, it sold fuel, which this facility will not do. The boat traffic associated with this project will likely not be as heavy as it was when the 200-boat dry stack marina was sited at this project location. The applicant stated he intends to place no wake zone signs on his piers and is willing to place channel markers for navigation if needed, and would have to receive separate authorization for those if they were found necessary. In addition, vessels should be idling in close proximity to structures and other boats anyway, so there should not be excessive wakes causing safety issues or erosion. The bridge along Malini Bayou restricts most other boat traffic, and this development should be seasonal, 6 to 7 months out of the year, with periods of reduced traffic. The traffic associated with the water taxi will remain at the end of the pier, extending into St. Louis Bay, keeping the much larger boat out of the bayou. And the applicant states that the property has long been used by the public for fishing, and therefore debris and trash has collected there. The applicant has cleaned this up and will continue to keep garbage out of the environment. One commenter asked about refueling causing pollution in the bayou. There will be no sales of fuel on the site. A commenter pointed out damage to the existing boardwalk that's over land on the property. The applicant stated that the damage caused by the storm surge from Tropical Storm Francine will be corrected when pilings are driven for the restaurant. And the applicant states that the property has remained vacant for a long time, and as he develops it, he will make sure it remains clean and well-maintained, and all structures will be built to Harrison County Code specifications. Okay, so commenters were also concerned that the pier extension will cause navigational complications with the adjacent public boat launch. The agent stated that the proposed pier addition is more than 70 feet from the boat ramp access pier and will have no adverse impact on the launch and recovery of boats at the adjacent boat ramp or access to Malini Bayou. The proposed structures will require a minor change of course for boats heading south from the boat ramp or north from Malini Bayou, but St. Louis Bay is more than 10,000 feet wide at this location, and there should be room for all boat traffic to maneuver safely. This proposed structure will extend 287 feet from the shore and is similar in length to other structures on that side of St. Louis Bay. Commenters were concerned the finger piers will cause a hazard to navigation in the bayou. Those structures will not exceed the allowed 25% extension across the width of the waterway. One commenter asked what will be the use of the proposed boat slips. The applicant stated that the boat slips will be used as transient parking for customers, as well as storage of boats owned by the applicant for day use rental and charter boats for fishing charters. And lastly, there was one comment in opposition to granting after the fact certification. And we do have state statute in Mississippi Code 492751 that allows for after the fact authorization for work that has been conducted in accordance with our public policy. For agency comments, MDQ and MDAH, so Environmental Quality and Archives and History, did not submit any comments within the comment period. And the Secretary of State's office stated that some of the proposed structures fall outside of the area of the current Tidelands lease, and they will be amending that lease to include those. So after evaluation of the project using our decision factors, this project would serve a higher public interest by redeveloping a neglected property to a commercial business that will allow increased access to recreational activities and coastal wetlands. Therefore, the staff requests a motion that the commission recommend to the executive director to approve the after-the-fact impacts as requested and approve the certificate of waiver as requested. And I know that was a lot. If y'all have any questions, I can try to answer them, or the applicant is here. And I believe we also have a public comment.
We do have one public comment. We want to go ahead and,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so we have a, one public comment was Jill Fitzpatrick, I believe. Please just state your full name and then city and
Good morning.
please.
Jill Fitzpatrick Laracini, 439 First Avenue. I'm directly across Molini Bayou from the property in question. The extension of that pier was said to be needed in order to navigate a boat to the end of the pier. From the time I was 14, I was qualified to operate a boat. And I don't understand why another 100 feet is required to be able to deliver a payload of individuals in a boat. You either need a new boat captain or you need a new boat. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems, I'm going to use the word greedy. It seems quite greedy to extend the pier that far out. It either reflects poor planning or poor skills. I don't understand. And I also question what contractor would do that kind of work, because the pilings are in already. So I was before this board, you probably remember me, in order to replace the groin that had been there for 50 years, and it took just under 3 years to get that work to be done. And I did everything that was asked of me. So I don't understand if there's a dual standard for residents versus businesses, and I object to the after-the-fact permitting. So that's pretty much all I have to say. My neighbor who can't be here, who's directly across from where these finger piers are going to be, he has written a letter, and he has a good point about these 14 boat slips that will project out into the bayou. I do have a concern for the safety, and, time will tell. We'll just see. One thing I have observed since the additional pier pilings have been put out there unpermitted is that we don't have as many boats roaring through, not observing the no-wake zone. Any boat operator who sees structures should know to slow down, but that's not the case at that location. The last piece, if you're going to sell alcohol and rent jet skis, that's going to be another interesting. I've had 11 years in the emergency room and 10 years as a forensic nurse. So I have concerns. And that's it. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Fitzpatrick? No, ma'am,
The-
thank
You
you.
know, the tides, nothing's new about the tide, nothing's new about the depth. You had a question, sir?
Now, I just want to address one thing. I'm not sure what we're talking about. There's no different standard between public and private or business, because matter of fact, we're probably more stringent with the business than anything. And we try to, look at it a lot harder than what would with your own private thing. So I'm not sure what caused that, but, be glad to talk to you about it anytime, because I don't know what caused you to take so long to get yours, but I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jenin, if I may, based on her comments, the extension on the pier, I mean, I've launched at that launch before. Is it a depth thing with tides being able to get in there? Because I know it's very shallow coming out of that boat launch.
Yes, Thomas Jenin, I'm the developer of Tiger Beach. And my neighbor, what she forgot to tell y'all is, I don't know when she was permitted to extend her jetty on her property. So if you look at Molini Bayou, Alyssa, can you pull that up? There's a very little canal, Molini Bayou. And, this has been, Willa mentioned the mean high tide study. That's the first thing that we did on this project. And it took 6 months. And that's when DMR gave me permission to excavate the rock pile. And that's the first thing we did. I didn't want to buy this land unless I could remove those rocks, which allows for now a beach and kayaks, jet skis, whatever. But the DMR, if you look at the south side of this canal, that appears to be old. I think the jetty wall goes out further to the west, and you can see the sandbar. If you look south of the end of my pier, you can see, plain as day, a sand flat. Well, that flat, my son walked across the bayou. He's 13. He walked across the bayou during the north wind a couple weeks ago, did not get his ankles wet. Okay? I don't want to spend another 125 grand necessarily on extending this pier. But when that jetty wall was extended on the south, in the last 3 years, that sand flat has gotten dramatically worse. And it needs to be dredged. And I was told that, basically, I'm going to have to dredge it if I want boat customers. State has no money to dredge it. So it's not about greed or whatever you just heard. It's about, I have to extend the pier to accommodate a 30-foot center console even. So it's not a need, it's not a want, it's a need. And this has been, I think Alyssa and I have been talking about this permit for over 2 years. So there's nothing, it is what it is at this point.
One other question I have while we've got you up here, where's your parking gonna be?
So parking, if you look at that map or the site, you mean boat parking or?
No.
Automobiles.
Vehicle. And what I'm leading to with this is the limited parking for the boat ramp. How are you gonna put signs up or something to make sure that customers are
Well,
in your parking and not the boat
Let me
launch?
see. So I'm not the best at this. The county just extended the paving, and the county's going to extend the paving to the stop sign. And then my land can accommodate like 80 cars.
Okay.
But I just did a deal with the other neighbor, my neighbor to the north. I'm going to lease part of his land for employees, charter captains, charter boat customers. They'll all be across the street. We have, and for this is all hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work over the water that can't even be insured. But we have, I think it's Paradise Sports in Fort Walton and Panama City. They're going to send a parasailing boat over here this summer. We've got, I can't even keep up with the charter captains. My captain can't even manage the amount of people that want to fish out of here. He's offshore today in one of our boats. And so all of this is just based off of a demand, everything that we're asking for. There was some confusion on the fire canal. My contractor, Gills Crane Service, they do work all in this area. They built the Bay St. Louis Marina. There was a mix-up. He was told that if there was no vegetation present in front of the bulkhead, that we could remove the bulkhead when he dewatered it. So that was a fire marshal thing. I didn't, and it's an ongoing battle. So that is where we are in a nutshell.
Sounds like you already had the permitting for everything. You just a couple extra piles here and the extension and a couple small things, but you already had a main permit in place.
We did, and Harrison County, they told me that anything that required a lease with the Secretary of State's office to deal with the DMR on the plans, and the plans were, I did the plans at my house on a 2-foot graph paper. It was not a technical review. So, when these guys order pilings, they get 10 or 12 extra. And George just he drove like 4 extra pilings just because he had them. I don't think anybody thought it was like, we're going to come out here and measure this to the foot. I don't think it was like that. At least it appeared to be very relaxed.
Then on Ronnie's comment, I will say, I think that before you're going to be able to operate, the city's going to require you to have the amount of parking spaces you need. And they're
Yes,
not
in
gonna give you
fact,
a
they,
business license unless you have that, so.
Yeah, we have almost double the minimum from a automobile standpoint is required by Harrison County. This is not the city of Pascagoula. This is the unincorporated county. That's another thing people don't realize. It's the building codes are a lot different than they would be if it was Bay St. Louis or Pascagoula.
Got a question, I'm looking at that slide and you're talking about your son walked across there. Is there any way to get a boat in that canal?
So he has a 17-foot Boston whaler, and he cannot go across that on low tide.
So, I'm looking at where your proposed pier.
Yes,
And,
sir.
looking across there, and I mean, I'm assuming, maybe I'm doing wrong, that's sandbar.
It is absolutely a sandbar.
And you're saying the state has no money to do it.
That's what I was told.
All right, Jared, let's look at this. Is there a way that we can, dredge that? Because obviously my question is there a way that we can dredge that out in that area there? Because it's not just helping him, it's gonna help everybody behind there. Because how do they get into there? Is there homes behind there or anything?
Yes, sir. So
How do we help these people out? That's what I want to do.
That actually goes in and ties into Mulaney Bayou that comes all the way up through my neighborhood as well as a dead end portion to the east of there as well.
I mean,
There
to
are
me, it's
homes.
just built up. It's just, stuff that's built up over time. Obviously, at one time, he was, able to take a boat up and down that area.
Yes, sir. So I guess it was 2 summers ago, I had a quad engine 45-foot center console, and I've tried to find the video, but I pulled that boat into the canal and turned around at the bridge on 3rd Avenue, and I actually left it there for the weekend. You cannot get much of anything through there now. And and I'm not an environmental engineer, but the company that I've hired, Eco Solutions out of Daphne, Alabama, when Lewis was there, he goes, look, he said, the fix is, jetties have to be almost equal, right? Apparently. And so where my little rock pile stops, that was all riprap from when they tore the bridge out after Hurricane Camille in 1969. The north side jetty needs to be as far as the south side jetty, or that sandbar will always form. It'll be an ongoing issue forever.
The other question I've got is, you building 100 extra feet out there, you're doing it because you have to, and that, to be.
Yes, sir.
Do something. If I can get that dredged out, is that gonna, eliminate you having to spend the money to do it, and then the other people having to have objection to it, or is it something we're gonna continue with?
The boat that we have is it's a single diesel at prop pocket, Coast Guard certified for 24 passengers and 2 crew. I don't know. I mean, it would have to be high tide.
So it's not gonna.
The canal is a separate issue
Yeah,
from
you'd
the
have
water
to go.
tower.
Notwithstanding the sandbar at the
Well,
canal.
you went by it. More so, I'm looking at it as how do we help the people that are in that canal?
I'll tell you this. So Saturday we were on site. I had a full crew working, and I met this couple from Baton Rouge, and the wife said, she goes, "You made my husband spend $12,000 on a folding T-top." And they have some twin engine. You've probably seen the boat. It's a twin engine, probably 27-foot hybrid, they call them. So the guy spent 12 grand on the T-top so he can get under the bridge because he lives right behind that little bridge. And they couldn't get out the bayou. So she's like, "What happened to the bayou?" I said, "It's filled in. I've watched it fill in for 2 years." So I'm not.
Every time I think I can do something, I find out I can't. But let me find a way. And let me look at it.
That would be a huge help. I don't know how that process works.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's money, I can come up with money. If it's an environmental thing that I don't know about, that's another issue. But Jared, y'all look at that and tell me what it would take and what we would need to do, because it's not just for the business here, it's for everybody that has a house or anything else behind there. They ought to have the right to be able to get in and out of there.
So I've got one other concern I'd like to address. First of all, let me say, I grew up going in and out of this area whenever Annie's was there and the marina was there, and I've got a lot of great memories, and I'm happy to see that area being revitalized. I think it's a great project that you're bringing there, but not only with Mr. Jennings' rentals that he's planning on having, but there will be some boat traffic coming through there. A couple of years back, Director, if you remember, Marine Patrol and I went out just on the south side of the bridge, the Highway 90 bridge on the east side of the bay there. There's a lot of riprap just under the water surface. I believe Bryce and I went out there and we bumped several pieces. We marked that a few years back. They're all gone. I would like to see getting that area remarked for multiple reasons. Outside of this, I still get 2 or 3 phone calls a year, people telling me they tore off a lower unit or tore up a prop. So
Chief, can you look into that? Chief Wilkerson, can you look into that? All right, Chief Wilkerson, can you look into that, what he's talking about?
Yeah, and the only other question I had was like y'all wanted to provide the fire water from the bayou,
Yes, sir.
and the county fire department's good with that.
Well, so yes and no. This has been about an 18-month delay. So we put the canal in per fire department or fire codes. I actually do have to bring a water line in. Harrison County, their civil engineer signed off on it last week. It took 12 weeks to get a permit to pay for this water line. We don't know what our water flow will be until they set a fire hydrant. Depending on the water flow, that will dictate what size, if any, that we would need for a booster pump.
Gotcha.
This is something it's really unheard of. There's never been a building, definitely in Mississippi, that's ever tried to have a saltwater and a freshwater fire suppression system. And there's no exceptions to be made when it comes to, you know that. I mean, there's no exceptions with
Yeah.
fire safety. So
I was for it. I just think that, a little bit of less burden or cost. I mean, you're already going in the amount of money you put into a development. So I understand trying to service debt and everything else, a little bit of a break helps on that.
yeah, so, hopefully we won't need, hopefully this canal that we dug will end up being like jet ski storage or something. It gets really complicated, and I think DEQ came out because their rules conflicted with the fire marshal rules. The fire marshal, the canal that we dug is 5 feet deeper than the Malini Bayou. And it's got a concrete slab in the bottom. And it's got all this stuff. And DEQ comes out, I don't know when, it's been maybe 3 months ago. And they poked around with a stick. And that little fire canal has about 4 feet of mud in it. So if that was my only source of fire suppression, it definitely wouldn't pass. When they kicked the pump on, we would probably have a third of the flow that we thought we would have. And my system's going to need about 600 gallons a minute. So if you can picture that amount of water, and it's a very costly pump. The pump is over $100,000 with 0 warranty because it's salt water. So the whole thing has been pretty much a nightmare.
Gotcha.
I mean, this has been one for the record books here.
Understood. All right. Do we have any additional questions for Mr. Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Willa knows more about this area's project past than I do. So she was stating that jetty that's on the south side was, okay, now our pointer's not working, was permitted to the city. and they ended up running out of money. So they actually have a permit that they can extend that jetty longer than it is. They just ran out of money. So, you know, if they could get the money to complete that, maybe that would help in this situation. Also, I wanted to point out that in our regulations, we say that we would prefer for people to pier out rather than to dredge in. So if the agent and the applicant has stated that they need to get to depth with this pier extension, and that is what would be preferred in our regulations, is that, you know, they would only impact the water bottoms by placing pilings instead of, you know, dredging sediment out of that area.
The only thing I'm worried about too, Lisa, is, that's a canal.
Yeah, dredging in that maintained area. I mean,
Giving the
anybody
people
could get,
access in and out of there, they deserve that right, and so how do we do that?
yes. And I mean, so, you know, DMR, we besides beneficial use, we don't perform dredging. So, but we might be able to get with the city or
Well, we get the
somebody
county.
to.
Harrison County, I think, owns that area, and we can get with Harrison County and get them to ask for a permit to do it and,
Right.
And put in for a proposal and see if we can't help them with it. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure of all the logistics of it, but it can definitely be a conversation that's had.
And, you know,
so.
we could probably help them with funds.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So recommendation?
Any other questions?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Affairs, Ms. Charmaine, she here?
Good morning.
Morning.
The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 2 media mentions since the January MACMR meeting. News items included the closing of the recreational fishing season for red grouper. On January 20th, Shellfish Bureau Director Jason Ryder served on the panel for Let's Talk Aquaculture, a community conversation at the Mary C. in Ocean Springs. At this weekend's Biloxi Boat Show, the Artificial Reef Bureau staffed the agency's public outreach booth each of the 3 days of the show at the Mississippi Coast Convention Center. They shared insight on fishing reefs and fisheries management, as well as handing out MDMR informational materials. The Shrimp and Crab Bureau also participated in the weekend's boat show, with the booth sharing information about the monofilament recycling program. Marine Patrol, Coastal Resources Management's Invasive Species Program, and the Grand Bay Near participated in the Kids 101 fishing program during the boat show. Each group featured a table at the event and educated attendees about their respective roles and programs at MDMR. The following fisheries scientists presented at the Mississippi-Alabama Joint Chapter Meeting of the American Fisheries Society, February 4th through the 6th in Orange Beach: Melody Chaplin, Lindsay Hoy, James Klein, and Catherine Wright. Also representing the agency at the meeting were Megan Fleming and Josh Waters of the Finfish Bureau, and Michael Lee, Jason Snotter, and Delia Sims of the Hatchery Bureau. Grand Bay Near staff Jennifer Cumbus and Brianna Andrews participated in the job extravaganza on January 21st at the Jackson County Exceptional School. Emmett Carsons hosted observer training for phenological monitoring at the Weeks Bay Near on January 31st. The Seafood Technology Bureau's Becky Hargrove and Coastal Resource Management's Allison Faggard and Thomas Butera all served as science fair judges for St. Alphonsus School on February 5th. On January 28th, Coastal Resources Management's Allison Faggard, Alicia Caron, and Caitlin Payne participated in Career Day at Gulfport Central Middle School. And on February 4th, MDMR held our annual legislative reception the night before our agency's Capitol Day in Jackson, which allows our staff to meet with legislators. And in the morning at the Capitol, we were able to share the space with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and our staff met with legislators, Capitol staff, and guests throughout the morning, handing out informational pieces about our agency.
All right, thank you for the update. Any questions for Ms. Charmaine?
Just one thing, you know, having Capitol Day with Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is a good thing, because we all working together as a group. And, you know, the state of Mississippi, we are all basically, you know, separate agencies. We're only one of the 2 states in the Gulf that is a 5 that does that. But I tell you what, we work hand in hand, and I appreciate Director Lynn Posey and that group working with us, so thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
We're gonna do it again next year, I think.
The plan.
All right, looks like we got an update from Trevor on the multi-day limits and fillet possession.
All right, this is a follow-up from your request from the last meeting. I will say before that, that oyster crew is on the water doing the water samples now. They're able to get out in between the fog and everything, so they should be back in by 11:30. And then the director mentioned the certification process with MS Krill. We had our first call with the NOAA statistical consultants, but basically went through 70 pages of documentation that staff compiled on it. They're all survey statisticians, so obviously those questions were fairly rigorous at times to try to get through. Overall, the sentiment was positive. We're thinking that we're going to be able to get at least certification somewhat soon based on our correspondence with them. And I'd like to credit Eric, Geely, Jeremy Timms, James Klein, Josh Waters, Megan Fleming. They did a bulk of the documentation work and the analysis, and then everybody on the staff that's been helping out with it. It's been a long process so far, short but long. It looks like it's going to come to fruition soon.
Nice.
All right, so this was just a request from the previous meeting to try to add some clarification. And this text is very small, but this is the written rule out of Title 22, Part 3. So not to have to read the exact thing out all the way through, but essentially it says it's unlawful for possession of fish with heads, tails, or flesh removed. The exception here is that any charter recreational fishing boat fishing outside Mississippi territorial waters. So that's a bold underline, so that's a clarification there to realize for the next conversation. But fishing outside Mississippi territorial waters over 24 hours before returning to land and filing a float plan with the department may possess filleted fish in Mississippi waters. Essentially, this was a Chandeleur rule for the most part. It was exercised by individuals leaving from our waters out to Chandeleur, staying the night and coming back. That possession of fillets still only was limited to a single day possession limit, because that's what's currently in our regulations. And then basically the float plan had all that information had to be submitted to the DMR, all that kind of stuff. So the next one is the multi-day side of things. So the multi-day possession exists here for licensed for hire vessels. That was a rule that was made, I think, in 2016, if I remember correctly. So a licensed for hire vessel may obtain a 2-day bag limit endorsement from the MBMR for a fee of $100 per year, and that endorsement allows the vessel to possess a 2-day bag limit, whole or fillet, a spotted sea trout, red drum, southern flounder, under the following conditions. You see that first line, the endorsement only applies while fishing in Mississippi territorial waters. So it's a charter boat fishing. Mainly this is exercised around Cat Island and some of the others that are within there, and the other qualifications. This one also has to be submitted to the DMR via a float plan and is actually signed off on by Marine Patrol and then provided back to them before engaging in the activity. I will say there's another one that exists, and it's the federal for hire day multi-day possession limit. So that's federally permitted charter boats that are allowed to engage in this activity. I think it's been extended to a 36-hour trip at least, because there was some concern about boats taking 25-hour trips and having 2 days of possession. So I think they went through that conversation. That one's existed for a while on the federal for hire side. So we looked at the other states. Really, the main one was what came up last time. It's Louisiana that has this allowance. It was passed by their legislature. It was actually amended here recently. So the Louisiana requirements: you must launch and land from a ramp south of Highway 90. You must have proof of actively on the water at a remote camp that can only be accessed by water, and that proof exists in receipt. Basically, it has to meet the department's discretion. So there's multiple forms that you can use, but it's up to the officer that's stopping to be able to determine whether it's valid or not. And then they may possess up to the possession limit of fillets, and they must have sufficient skin for identification, must be segregated into separate containers, and must be within the fillet size regulations, which just happened this year. So each one is basically 3 inches, 4 inches under to account for the head length. And then of those fillets that they have, I think up to 20% are allowed to be under, just in case you're a bad filletman or you cut one in half or whatever else. So as you can see, I mean, that one's a little bit complex, right? It's a lot of moving parts. I think it creates a lot of a lot of questions on their law enforcement when it comes to trying to enforce this stuff and everything. They cannot actively fish while in possession of more than the daily possession limit. So essentially, it's when they're transiting back from their camp. And if we look at other state regulations, I had a call out to Alabama. I looked through Florida and Texas documentation. There's no multi-day bag limit allowances on the water, no fillet possession allowances on the water. They do allow, which isn't part of the conversation we're having, but in transit, if someone stopped on the road, typically the rule is you can have double the possession limit while you're traveling. And really, that incident happens not very often. And so if they do, it's just a reasonable excuse of, well, I have the catch in my cooler and the other party is going elsewhere, which is why I have it. And usually it goes over pretty well. And then the last one is there is a CFR allowance for personal consumption. It's 1.5 pounds per person. This is essentially if you're staying on the water for a long period of time and you want to catch and then cook something while on the water, you got a grill or something else, you're within 1.5 pounds per person, you're allowed to do that, but it applies to your bag limit. So whatever fish you select for cooking on the water has to be taken off the bag limit is how the language reads. So that was just mainly all the information and the regulation. I figured we'd have a little bit of discussion here if y'all had any additional questions. And if there was an intent to move forward with considering something like this, we'd bring up some options in the next meeting.
Yeah, the way I appreciate the information, number one, Trevor. Thank you for looping us in on especially the neighboring states. But I feel like it's not the multi-day for the recreational side isn't really that important. Just a single day limit, regardless if you're 2-3 days, and that way there's no interference with law enforcement trying to understand what they actually have, how many days they've been staying, at a specific location. Simplicity. For sure, I would think kind of like it was a little bit difficult to go through all the Louisiana regulation, but that would be my opinion. A single day, regardless, just to keep it simple.
Okay.
And of course, it would be applied for, reviewed, approved. I don't think just anybody's gonna go and fill it out. It would be something that would have to be, it's a legit process.
Yeah.
So,
essentially what you're saying is just 1 day limit, want to be able to clean them while you're there. That way, whenever you're taking a boat ride in, throwing everything in the truck, you don't have to deal with all that once you get shoreside.
correct.
Yeah.
That's sounds pretty reasonable to me.
So the likely avenue for that would be on that first one there, where it says fishing outside Mississippi territorial waters. It would be a area change essentially within that regulation that we'd probably consider. And then before we bring it back, I'll sit down with Marine Patrol to make sure there's any concerns they have or nuances that need to be included in there that they've seen over the past. We'll try to have that there.
Now, would that include, let's say, a chandelier boat that's not going to Chandelier? They're going to anchor up around Cat Island. Would they be able to do the same thing?
They should fall within that next
For
one
hire. Yeah.
with that practice. So they fall within that charter boat. This would be essentially the allowance of fillet
Okay, I
possession.
see it says charter and
Yeah.
recreational. I missed that on the first time. Sorry.
So we would change that area designation, and then if there's any specific areas, like keeping this practice to the islands, overnight camping at the islands, any specificity there, that would be part of the discussion.
So if I know we got several more homes out on Cat Island than we've had in the past, and it seems to take more in the projection of coming. But, so if a private recreational, if they want to be able to leave the harbor wherever they want to leave from, and they want to go out there and stay a couple of days, they're not going to be allowed to bring a 2-day catch back, only a 1-day catch?
That would be just a 1-day catch. We would have to amend that language to allow multi-day possession.
And if somebody goes to the island and camps out over the weekend, they can only have a 1-day catch?
That's right.
That's the only thing that I have a problem with. I'm thinking about people that, a recreational, how do we help out the people that are doing something that are entirely different? I mean, obviously, majority of our fishermen are going out there and catching one day and coming home that day, you know, and that, but how do we look at something? That's that's the only question.
Am I confused here? Without fillets, can you possess 2 days if you file the float plan?
No,
No, okay.
no, that's where the,
It's just
And-
one day in, no matter what.
yeah, and a lot of that is due, so it's a balance between enforceability of a regulation and allowing that kind of practice. Now, some of that can be curtailed with, you know, having the float plan, having some hail in, hail out scenario so that they know who's there and when. I would imagine that at some point we would start getting into the same realm as what the federal multi-day limits went into, which is what constitutes a multi-day trip. If you go out at, you know, noon on a Saturday and you're leaving at 8:30 a.m. the next day, is that truly 24 hours? I mean, it is definitely over a span of 2 days. So that's just where some of that stuff starts to bleed into one another. And it gets difficult, especially on the Marine Patrol side, I think, when they have to deal with scenarios like that. So
That was the only reason I was even mentioning like a one day, just because I know how difficult it would be for the, you know, the,
Yeah. My question would be though, is there a way to, and once again, maybe exactly what you're saying, might be right, okay? And is there a way to look at it and, that if I wanted to go to the islands and camp over the weekend and I was gonna fish, that I could have more than a one-day possession if I filed something, if I had some way of saying something to the Marine Patrol and saying before I went, that this is what I do. And, you know, is there a way to do something like that? I'm not talking about adding another license, I'm not talking about adding anything else. I'm just saying, is there a way to look at this? And, you know, maybe we can just look at it when we discuss it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you could probably do that with the Tails and Scales apps.
Well,
I mean, people
the
are using
MS
it already.
when we come to get it.
yes, on its face, yes. There, as we've learned from the last little while, there's a lot behind the scenes on that development of specific scenarios. And it really does. It sounds like it's really simple,
Right.
but usually it's a few months of deliberation and getting the developer to get it online and testing bugs and everything else like that. Yes, logically it would work. In practice, it would be a little bit difficult. But what I'll do is, Director, we'll add that in as an option,
Yeah, I mean,
and
we
we'll
just
get with
talk
Marine
about it in
Patrol
discussion.
on that side.
yeah, maybe with Marine Patrol and see how difficult they think that would be to try to regulate.
Yep.
And,
While we got you up here, sounds like we got a little progress on our licensing.
Yeah, so we actually got an email out from IT. The director commented on it. We've got credit card availability at the license desk, which is, I know, seems
Gotta
like
eat
it's
an
a
elephant
game, but
one
it's a
bite
huge
at a
step
time.
forward from what we had.
Great,
Hopefully we'll have it online here for long.
Hopefully,
great. Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Probably another comment.
All right, yeah, looks like, we're moving on to, public comments. Got James Miller.
Jam himself.
Hello, sir.
James Miller from Dialville, Mississippi. My concerns is down there at Pearl River. We need to lift it up, the flood stage, so we can work a little bit more. Find out what areas are good to work in so we can be competitive with our Mississippi beautiful oysters we got out there. Because the longer we stay closed, we lose ourselves. 2 or 3 weeks is just too long for us. We get ready to go back to the dock. Louisiana and the other Texas has done sold the oysters to our buyers, so they don't want them. So we got to be compatible with the other states. Closing it down for 2 or 3 weeks is tough. And I really take this seriously out there. I used to. Now I'm really getting back into it again. I've been an oyster since I've been 7 years old. I think things can change for us, the sampling, areas we can work that's not contaminated. to speed our process up of getting back on the right structure of the road to get our industry back, because we lost a lot of people that don't want to work in the industry no more. You know, you can't work 1 week out of the month, expect to keep an employee. It's tough. You know what I mean? I'm 60 years old and I work young guys, and it's tough. I'm out there doing it myself now. Which,
I can tell you, Mr. Miller, we're trying to do everything we can. And I don't know, I know, we look at that water quality and what we have to do. And, I know that, basically the FDA, I think, is the one who sets all of that for us. And we're trying to do everything we can. Thank goodness getting our lab back will help us a lot quicker to where instead of having to send stuff off and wait 2 to 3 days before we get it back, maybe that'll help some. I know that the staff will tell you that I stay on them pretty hard. And I stay on them pretty hard about, well, why aren't we sampling today? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And the answer is, and that basically, and maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but if I take too many bad samples, it could possibly cause an issue in the future. In other words, if I go in there and sample it too many times and then turn it in and it all goes on record, then they could raise it now instead of 11 feet, you go to 11 and a half feet, to go to 12 feet, you know, or go down, 10 and a half.
all right, let me give you for example. I'm glad you brought that up. You got a guy at a Bayou Caddy that lives off the same body of water out of Pearl River. His leases are right across the line there. He tags his oysters, he brings them back to Mississippi, and he sells them.
But I think that his mainly are, they're down in the Chandelier area and a little bit behind there.
No, you're wrong. Go throw the jug overboard and follow the stream.
But I mean, if the water's closed, it's closed to him too.
No.
Okay? No. And I mean, seriously, that's the way it should be done, all right? I'm just putting the way it should be. If the waters is closed in Mississippi, if we close the waters, it means it closed to everybody, whether you got a private lease or if you got a not.
Listen to me. I'm talking about Louisiana waters, right? The same body of water right across the line.
I've asked that question, and Trevor and them
You
have
know.
talked to me about it, and I've asked that question too, and I've been told that the Louisiana waters are closed more than ours.
No.
And,
I beg the
you know,
difference.
that, matter of fact, that if you go to look at the Pearl River area coming out of Louisiana, it's almost 5 miles that it's closed there. Am I speaking out of line here? Y'all help me, but, guys, am I telling the truth about what we came up with? Trevor, come here. I mean, I want to address these things because I don't want any miscommunications, okay?
Yeah, the line from what we looked at is closed within 5.34 miles. That's the line off Pearl River. And they close whenever our outflow closes. So
But-
if you got a specific area that it is,
3
we're
mile.
happy to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look,
Water pass,
you know, and once again, that's
Creek.
Louisiana, it's not us. But the other thing is too, though, that most of the season when you're open here, that area's closed. Is that not correct, Trevor?
You got your private leases, Spragues. You know what
No,
I'm
but I mean, that area's closed though for its harvest. Is that not correct, Trevor?
Go ahead.
So the way Louisiana operates versus us is basically a fixed closed season. And so our season is prioritized around the historical time in which the season's been open and our fishermen have been harvesting. It also happens to be the time where we have the most rainfall, outflow events, stuff like that, that has to be concerned. And then the second part of that is just the general proximity of our reefs to civilization and outflow that cause that concern and that closure. With those private leases that are down south in Louisiana, most of those are 20+ miles from any level of civilization or anything else like that. So typically they don't fall within that same jurisdiction, especially that 5 mile line. But like I said, if you got an area, let us know and we'll look into it.
And we look, and just like in today, I think Mr. Miller, you'll figure that, you know, when we talked about possibility of what we could open, we will look at every area, and you know, they're not, if they say way that we can possibly do it, but the FDA gives us the rules of what we have to follow, and I can't do anything against that.
Well, to be competitive in the market, you got to tighten your belt up because other states are getting ourselves
I know.
and it's leaving us to the dock.
Well, and the problem I
Okay.
got right now is obviously we have had such sporadic oyster season since 2010 that we can't get ourselves, and that's one of the things that I think we need to do, and I'm willing to put money in it to try to figure out how to do it, is to how do we go out and get establishment with people to say that they'll buy oysters, but they can't, they'll come back to us and say, well, we don't know if you're gonna have them or not. You know, I gotta be able to have something that I can depend on.
That's the key word right
And
there.
how do we get there? How do I help y'all get there? I wanna
Keep-
help you.
we
How do
wanna-
I help you?
You want to keep that reef over as much as you
I
can.
know that, and I'm gonna do everything I can
I
for that.
promise you. New sampling, you can sample and stay on top of it.
We're
There's a
gonna
lot
do
of
every-
things could be changed differently because I'll sit at home twiddling my thumb thinking about why we ain't out sampling, why we ain't out walking, drudging. I mean,
I mean-
when Dr. Walker was in here, look, we got 280,000 sacks off that reef. He never closed it.
I know, and
I'll be honest with you.
I
I'm
wanna
not-
get us back to 2005. I wanna
Yeah.
get us back before the end of when we got
Look, I love
280,
oyster,
300,000
and I
sacks.
just think that we can do things a little better with the lab opening back up. And, you know,
Well,
we
it's
just-
gonna speed things up, that's for sure.
well, we just need to get back on track so we can be compatible with our fresh, beautiful oysters
Yes,
out
sir.
there. And I'm talking, we got millions of dollars of oysters on the ground out there.
I know,
We ain't got chicken scratch.
I know,
I've been everywhere.
I know,
Wow, it'll blow your mind.
and let's get them.
Well, there's one other thing I got up here. We don't want no more new leasing, man.
Huh?
We don't want no more new leasing for anybody. Our grounds out here, our public dredging grounds, we don't want no leasing, man. We oppose that.
Well, these leases already.
Well, they don't even work them. That's the
Well,
problem.
Once again, if they don't work it, it ain't doing
Why do they
anything.
want more if they don't work the ones they got?
Well, I don't know. I mean, and once again, and I looked at this, and I'll be honest with you. After I listened to y'all, I listened to the people talking to me about what's going on with the leases themselves, and then when they talked about St. Joe, my answer back to the legislators was, guys, this is going to be a nightmare for me to be able to do anything with that because half of it's leased and half of it's not leased. You know, what's that going to do me? I need the whole thing to stay the way it was, and but Telegraph, over half of it's already leased. And
Yeah,
so,
there's some out there leased. I
no,
see
wait
them
a
out.
large part of it, and I'm gonna get Rick's gonna pull up a slide for me. He's got one that can show you exactly what we're talking about.
I look at it all the time.
Yeah, but this to me, Telegraph is, that's an area that we already have leases on, and if you can see it right there, everything that Rick, tell me, is it in the orange that's already leased or not? The blue is already leased. The gray is already leased, and the orange is what we're saying would be up for lease.
You see
So-
all that gold right there?
Yeah, it's
To
go
the
right.
north side, there's so many beautiful oysters that'll blow your mind right there.
And Telegraph?
Man, look, you just come get on my
Hey,
boat.
all right, y'all need to talk more sense to
Hey,
me
look,
out there.
I'll bring you on my boat with your crew.
Hey,
and
all right,
I'll
let me
bring you
put-
out
let me-
there
let me
and
just
I'll
put it-
show you what you need to see.
Mr. Miller, let me put it this way. Last year, in November, I think it was, November, December, when we couldn't open up these other areas up here, and I asked y'all, I said, y'all, I told the staff, I said, open up Telegraph, because at least it can be opened. I was told that they went out there and there wasn't an oyster one there.
All of them went to the east, to the mud hole.
I was told there wasn't an oyster
We,
one.
look, I went to the west a little ways, and good God Almighty, look
Well, I was
look
told
what
it was-
God put on the ground.
Hey, I was told there wasn't an oyster
You know what I
one out
mean?
there.
It'll blow your mind. And I've been all over there now since I
And-
had time
And I,
to
it's
look
been
at
more
the
than one
body of
time.
water out there.
One time in discussions that has come out of discussions about what leasing, and they said, well, let them go to Telegraph if they want to lease it.
Once you start new leasings, you're putting their foot through the threshold again.
Right.
I just feel like, that's my opinion. Okay.
Well, I'm fighting all I can, but I tell you what, I believe that blue up there that you see, if you catch all the oysters in the blue there, you're gonna have more than you can sell.
I'm working on it, if I could sell them.
No,
Thank
We're at
I'm keeping him
80%,
here.
80 to 20
All right,
leased to
thank you.
keep, and now we're at, now you're just gonna be probably we were at 80, 20 trying.
well,
to,
right now,
lease-
what we're
yeah.
doing, you got to think of the whole Mississippi Sound when you say of how much. And when it was 80-20, but what they was trying to do was basically take a large amount of what we had as historical reefs. Now we're back to saying, no, we don't want to give up that historical reef. And I did, the only thing that I have conceded in at all as a part of what you see is in the gold up there. which is considered as part that used to be historical reef. And everything else that you see that's in the blue is historical reefs that we have had over the last years that I looked at. The idea was to save all those historical reefs and be able to keep them for the fishermen, right? For our commercial fishermen and our private wrecks and all. The managing telegraph after it's already been a lot of it done, is going to be a tough thing. That was what I used to be able to say why I needed to eat the west side of St. Joe, was because it's going to be hard to manage it. It's going to be hard to manage half of it being one way and half of it another. If you can see right now where the areas are at, it could be done. And once again, I don't even know if the legislature is going to go for this. I'm just bringing it to them. This is an amendment that I have sent to Representative Anderson to ask him to bring out on the floor. And if he brings it out on the floor and brings that amendment up, and which I think he will, I'm not going to speak for him, but I think he will. Then there's still discussion there. And guys, there's still time, okay? There's still time. There's still discussion there. But I have been told from day one that there's nothing on telegraph. Okay.
Thank you, Director. All right, we have one more.
We got,
Yep, we got one more, Mr.
Mr.
Brian Bradley. Full name and address, please.
Yep, Ryan Bradley. I'm from Long Beach, Mississippi. I'm the director of Mississippi Commercial Fisheries United. A couple things I wanted to address. You gave a lot of good updates today. We appreciate that, General, and thank you all, commissioners, for taking interest in all these matters. Couple things that come up, with the leasing of the oyster reef. That's why a lot of these oyster guys are here today. I like to hear that we're kind of rolling back some of this proposal. I appreciate that you working with us, hearing some of these concerns. With the Telegraph Reef, I would just say I keep hearing that we've leased half of that, and I just don't think that's correct, that we've leased half of Telegraph. We've leased around Telegraph, the actual natural historic reef. I don't think we've leased any of that, and if we have, it's probably unlawful. So I would be careful about saying that we've leased half a Telegraph, because it kind of embellishes that to the
I'm
lawmakers.
going by what the map looks like.
It looks like it because we've gone all around it and leased it, but I don't think we've actually leased the actual natural historic reef. So just want to clarify on that. But I've fished that reef before myself. I've dredged on it probably less than 20 years ago, I would say. It was probably 2007, 2008-ish, I would say. That was some of the best oystering we've ever seen. Beautiful coin single oysters. So we know when that reef comes back, it can come back fast and it can come back strong. So I'm just a little hesitant that we want to give that away, because that can be a huge asset and resource for the state of Mississippi. So let's think about that. And that leads me to another consideration. We've asked you before, and I've talked with the chairman of the Oyster Task Force. Let's get that Oyster Task Force together. So all of these issues that we're talking about here in this meeting and these public comments, let's get it in that Oyster Task Force meeting, because just like the river stage and all the issues with the Pearl River, we want to see the data. Show the task force people the data on the river, the sampling. Let's look at it objectively and see if there's any wiggle room. If there's any room we can make it better, let's work with you to try to make that better, because I think some of the guys bring up some good questions. Why is the Louisiana guys wide open down there when we're closed and they're impacted by the same river water? So I think there's some legitimate questions there we can look at. We really have got to optimize the opening of these reefs. I can't stress enough, we're losing so much market share. Every single day counts. I know you guys are doing the best job. The staff is doing a great job, but every single day counts. And when we miss one day on the oyster, that's the difference in a truckload of oysters being sold or not sold, and our guys getting to go to work the next day. And so just please do everything you can to get us optimized and get us opened as quickly. I know you guys are working hard. Glad to hear the labs getting back. That's a big deal. The science lab over there, so you can test these samples.
All right, Mr. Bradley. running out of time, sir.
I'm up
All
on
right,
my 3
well,
minutes.
In,
but,
in reference to a couple of them, okay, number one, let's call the oyster task force meeting as soon as we can, okay? All right, let's call one, okay? We'll just call one, sit down, and we'll go over everything we talked about. Number two, I will do everything in my power to find a way to help y'all stay open as much as I possibly can. I can tell you that, because I know that our biggest problem right now is that our buyers out there are saying that we just don't have consistency. We don't have enough consistency for us to be able to, how do I tell the Mike Cures and the Jennifer Jenkins and them not to buy from Louisiana or buy from Texas or whatever, whenever we don't know if we're going to be able to supply what they need? I understand their points. I understand them 100%, and they have to do what they need to do. How do we get there? I'm willing to put anything I can into it. I'm willing to put anything I can do. Whatever we can do to find a way to come up with something to give us a more stable atmosphere to be able to put things out, that's what we need to do. And I'm willing to do that 100%, because and I will do some more research, and I will look into it. And I get told all the time about Telegraph, it's an hour drive, and I'm not going down there unless I have to. I get told about other things. And once again, right now, and I understand future could mean different, okay? I can understand that the future could be a different thing. But I also understand right now that if the waters are open, nobody's going there. They're going to go where the closest is so they can get their oysters and get them back to the dock as quick as possible. Right now, we can't catch all we have. We got plenty right now to catch in a short period, in a short area. Would it be something that if, like today, could Telegraph be open when they're sitting? That's another point. Could it possibly be? And if that's the case, if we had the oysters down there and we had the capability of fishing it, would it be something? I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to look into it more, okay?
Yeah, yes, sir. I appreciate that. I know we're all working toward the same goals, and we
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. And you brought up some good points about the marketing. What can we do to market these oysters? We got some great ideas for you. Maybe we can talk more
Hey, let's
about
do
it at these
I'm
task
I'm all
force, so.
open. I'll do anything in the world I can to help you market. I was talking to a lot of the fishermen. Some of the buyers aren't buying but so many days out of the week, and they're saying they're having to sell them off their boat, and they getting a little bit more money, but it's hard to do. How do we go out and help you do that?
Well,
How do we get out there and help you be able to sell them off your boat? How do we help them?
I don't know that that's the answer. It may be one of the solutions, but I think these casinos, we got all these casinos, they'd love to have these
Well, and
Mississippi
the other
oysters,
thing
and you
that we're
could help
doing,
them
and
with
I
the
don't want to take
marketing.
up everybody's time, but we are putting a lot of money into a couple of areas to where we're building basically a seafood market area on the water in different towns. D'Iberville being one that they're working hard at right here now. And Ocean Springs is another one they're working hard at. Maybe we look at some of that. That might be a perfect place that we could just say, hey, here's a place for you to sell them to, and we can get them and have it worked out to where they could come buy straight off the boat from you and have it right there. Okay?
There's all kind of options there, but we're going to work on it, and we appreciate y'all, and we won't keep no more of your time. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Ron. All right, moving on. Do we have any other business anybody wants to discuss? All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming out for the CMR, and I would have a good week. And do we have a motion to close?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's you here, Jason.